Hello, everybody. Welcome to what is going to be a very lively session, one that is going to be full of banter, one that's going to be challenging, but I'd also encourage you all to use the chat box on your screen. My name is Nick Tidd. I am your moderator for this session. This is going to be a rather unique format. Not only do you have a vendor, yours truly, you have Raegan, who has been consulting with many on best practices when it comes to this and many other topics in the channel. And of course, we have three vendors. So as we were joking, we're like, last person standing wins the battle. Many of us on this call have known each other for a number of years. And so it's going to be a lively debate. I asked them at the beginning, should I introduce them? Should I let them introduce themselves? And I made a point to make sure that nobody used it as an infomercial. But before we kick off, I'm going to start with ladies first. And Raegan happens to be welcome to the grandparents crowd. She is the grandmother of a lovely granddaughter that was born yesterday. So we're very happy. Congratulations. Raegan, for those that don't know, is with Spur Reply. Raegan's actually worked with me in the past and helping me in one of my previous lives in building out some platforms. She also is very avid, and I'm not going to read word for her bio, but she's very avid in the industry and has been leading channel ecosystems and platforms for quite a bit. Harbinder needs no introduction. The CEO of Mindmatrix. He also is an industry veteran and has got quite a bit of insight on this topic. As we prep for this session, there was no words that were to be minced, and so I'm actually going to tap him first. Cosmo is with Zift Solutions. Many of you know Zift Solutions. He's also a fellow Canadian. So for those of you that want to talk about hockey, the playoffs do start on the 20th. And we are hoping that our beloved Toronto Maple Leafs actually win a Stanley Cup. And for those that have been keeping track, it's only been since 1967. Yeah. And last but not least, Mr. Taylor. Mr. Taylor's with Impartner. Many of you know Impartner and their platform based in Utah. He's had a very successful career in the industry. And so welcome to my panelists. And so the topic of today is developing a next-gen partner portal and what do partners really want. I'm going to turn it over to Harbinder because we had quite a conversation, and maybe we can share some wisdom. Before you embark on this journey, you may want to check something first. Harbinder, over to you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Nick. So the question is about the why, about the partner portal, or is that the question, Nick? I just want to make sure. Okay.
Oh, he forgot our briefing. You see already, he forgot our briefing. So here's from a vendor perspective, and I'll tee you back up.
Yeah.
We're all fascinated with AI. We're all fascinated on the shiny object. But do we really know what we have in our stable before we go on the journey of trying to figure out the next steps? And what advice would you give folks before they get enamored with the shiny object that I'm sure you and many of our fellow panelists would like to sell them?
Absolutely. So one of the big things is we come across, companies looking for a partner portal. Either they're using one of our competitor products or they have, most of them have, some kind of a partner portal in place. So one of the things that people like to make a switch, they say, our partner portal or a technology is not working because they don't have XYZ feature, or something is not working because of adoption engagement. Now, a lot of times when we look at it and say, you should first try to look inwards. The problem is inside, not outside, not with the platform provider, because a lot of features that you have not explored, maybe you don't need them, or maybe you have not fine-tuned the platform you already have. That is really something I tell everybody, please, because what's going to happen, they're going to make a switch. They're going to start using us. If they don't fix something, what's broken inside, they'll have the exact same problem a year later, and we're going to be blamed. So that's the first thing I tell everybody. Please look at your process, look at everything, how you guys do things, fine tune what you have. Now, if there is a function feature that is clearly that you need it and it's not being offered by somebody else, okay, maybe that's one valid case, and maybe pricing or something else. So that would be my advice.
And so, Raegan, you often get that first phone call as the neutral party. What do you see as the most common elements that cause this discussion to take place? And what advice would you give folks before they embark? And we will talk about what's best practice for next gen in a minute.
Well, it's exactly what Harbinder said. You have to look at the people, the process, the programs that are going in to make that platform come to life. It doesn't matter which of the vendors you're using. If you don't have the right elements in place and you haven't put the right rigor behind it, you won't be successful regardless of how many times you switch. So I often start to ask the questions about how should this work today? What are the processes that you have? What are the programmatical elements that you have in place to really bring the platform to life? Because the platform sits on top of those pieces. And so it's often a look back. If you wanted to flip it to Taylor Swift, me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me. That's typically the problem. So if by chance you've got everything dialed in and it's really truly the platform, then we're happy to go through the list of requirements and make sure we find someone that meets those check boxes for you. Oftentimes that's because you built it yourself, or it's homegrown, or it's a hodgepodge of things. But you've got to do that internal look back. And that really starts with having a next gen program. So do you have the programmatical pieces in place to give your partners the things that they need? And the last panel gave a whole bunch of insight as to what partners actually care about. Do you have the things that are there to make them excited? Is it interactive? Are you minimizing the time that it takes for them to be involved to get things done? So thinking about it from a partner's perspective, like, is your program dialed in, and then layering that platform on top of it.
So Cosmo, I see a lot of head nodding, so I'm taking you're agreeing. And what do you see from your customer base?
Yeah, I travel around the world working with our clients to get value out of the platform, right? And and I think we're all right on the money here from what I'm hearing. It's they're not necessarily using the features that they have, but for all of you attendees, I mean, I think that, right? This is what I hear. Those teams know that they're not using everything. They don't necessarily have all the resources. They don't necessarily have large teams. And so what advice can I give you to help you when we're telling you something you already know? I would encourage you to push your vendors. So you're either going to connect with the Raegans of the world, a third party agency, or you're going to call me and Harbinder and call Dave. I recommend you call Dave and bother him, but push us to help you with taking your platform to the next level. And that put people, CSMs, TAMs, get any best practices you can. There are 3 things I do with all of our clients. You want to make sure that you've got your performance metrics. So look at how the platform's performing with your partners. You want to take a look under the hood in terms of a feature audit. And I think you need to do some goal setting. So program goal setting. And that is about getting, your team together, your ops, your sales, your marketing teams. You get them together, you set some goals, you identify your hurdles, and you prioritize what you want to work on. You look at the performance metrics, logins, partner engagement, and, you look at your feature audit to see what features you can activate in terms of, a plan. Put your plan together and get your partners, your vendor, to help you with that.
Thanks, Bud. Dave, any comments on follow-up?
I mean, I do. I got to just make a few comments. But first, I want to start off by, I got to just call Cosmo out on that one. The goal setting. And Raegan, you were nodding your head on that one too. The goal setting. I understand what you're talking about. And I do think it's important to directionally be focused on where you want to go. But it always makes me laugh a little bit. I'll sit down with my financial advisor at Fidelity, and I'm talking about where our investments are. Well, Dave, what goals are you working for? Well, what the hell goals do you think I'm working for? I want to make the maximum amount of money with the minimum amount of effort. I mean, why is that hard to understand? What are the goals for your partner program? I want to not have to work very hard. I want to be able to take every weekend off. Oh, sorry, I give a thumbs up on that. I want to take my weekends off, and I want my partners to do all the hard work for me. It's pretty straightforward. So I understand that. I do think that there are some similarities across what every partner is looking for in the experience that they're driving at. And, and I have to say, and I'm as guilty of this as anyone, but I have to say, you know what the number one thing partners want from a portal is? They don't want one. Right? Anything they can do to engage with Nick's company as a partner, of HP, without having to have yet another login and yet another set of credentials, that's what they want. They want to be able to interact so easily with the vendors without having to do that. I'm probably like everybody else. I'm very clever in that I have a whole text document that has 700 logins to all of the online tools that I have to use, but I put a password on it. It's actually password, but I use $signs instead of S's, so no one's going to ever figure that out. So, you have to keep track of all this authentication information, and they really don't want one. If we have to have one, I think there are things we can do to make it easier. People don't want to linger in a portal. They want to get in, get what they're looking for, and get out. The more easy we can make it. Nick, you're the one that brought up AI. If there's a way to have AI make your tool easier so that when somebody hits your portal, without having to fish around for it, they get what they're looking for, and we know what they're looking for because of their job title and the company that they're with and deals that they've registered in the last 30 days, et cetera, et cetera. Anything we can do to make it easier to use, I think those are all big wins.
So we have a question. I'll toss it out to the group and then I'll give my perspective at the end. The question is, could you provide tips for gathering feedback from partners about the features they need in the portal?
I can jump in on this one. And we're actually in the process of kicking off some workshops next week with a client where we're doing exactly that. We're doing some design thinking sessions with the partners specifically to ask them about their experience in this portal for this vendor. I think that, that's the most interactive level of doing that, but you could also do it through a set of surveys. That might be the easiest way to get it out there, but actually talking to your partners. And you've got to look at a range of users, right? So with this specific client, they're going out to their PAC, their partner advisory council. They're asking them to nominate the actual portal users, because if you go out and ask the executives, they're going to have one set of answers if they're actually using the portal. But it's really those sales folks, the technical engineers that are in there every day. So it's asking the true users that are driving the business what their experience is, and what do they like about other portals. We all know that partners are working with multiple vendors, so they've probably got someone that's making their lives easy, that they can give you some tips and tricks on what they do like, what they don't like. But they're going to tell you what they need to be successful, and then you're going to need to listen. And that's going to be the hardest part, is if you're going to go out and ask them, I suggest that you have budget and time frame aligned to be able to take action on what they say. Because if you ask for the feedback and you don't action it, that's a good way to turn off your partners.
Yeah. Nick, I want to jump in after Raegan. Is that okay?
Yeah, and then I'll go, and then Harbinder has got his hand up too.
I think it's interesting that we have to talk about this from a partner perspective, when on the corporate side, meaning your corporate, HP.com or whatever, you've got so many tools and so much process and so many customer sat surveys and net promoter score surveys, and you do so much work to figure out what your customer journey is like on your .com site. And yet we're now still talking about how do you figure out what partners want. Look, the portal is just another tool. It's just another website entry point into your tech stack. It's for the most part HTML code. Put Google Analytics tags on your partner portal so you can see what the behavior flow is, and you can see what the bounce rates are on different pages, and you can see where your entry and exit points are. And it's so easy to do this. It's not second nature to us the way it is on the corporate.com site. If you go back and think about, think through all of the work your teams have done in the last 24 months to figure out what's our customer journey like, is our menuing structure the way it needs to be, what do we promote to the top page, and how hard, what are the bounce rates, are people finding what they want in our asset library? You should be doing the exact same thing, because most of your revenue doesn't come through your direct, it comes through your indirect. You should be spending at least as much time and effort tracking that behavior flow and doing not CSAT, but PSAT. I don't know. I hope that's not a bad acronym for something, but partner satisfaction surveys. Hey, thanks for accessing the partner portal today. How easy was it for you to find what you want? That type of thing, that should be top of mind for all of us.
So let me give you from a vendor perspective, and there's one thing that was brought up early. I would not measure your success based on the number of logins you get, because you will fail miserably at that. As Dave just eloquently put, you need to manage and look at the different types of individuals within the partner. If you treat the partner as a generic term, you will not get the feedback. And so parse your feedback based on the audience to whom is coming to your portal. A marketing journey is going to be different than a sales enablement journey, which is going to be different from an exec who wants to go to a dashboard. And I want to feed this into and pass this to Harbinder for a second question that just came up was, how do you bridge this to your go-to-market strategy? And so I always encourage, look at the last mile. Don't build inside out, build outside to in. And that, who do you want to attract? What's your route to market? Build your content for that. Then look at the metrics of how many of those partners that are logged in, so you can bridge it together. And I know, Harbinder, you and I have talked about this before, about how do we serve up content and how should people be thinking about as they redesign in next gen for a better experience to create stickiness.
So I'm going to answer this question next. So I want to address the previous question you had about the survey. So one of the important things, as you guys talked about, and I agree with 100% with Dave, the important thing that we have also found, obviously, partners are logging in. You're going to see we can put a lot of these tools, the Google Analytic tools, and we can divide by partner persona, the type, and you can get some insight what they're doing, what they're not doing. One of the things that we have found out, the partners are not even logging in. They're not even activated. They have no idea. Okay. And this is something that you will find once you start making phone calls to them. And you'll be surprised that, a vendor will send a lot of emails out. There's a brief login button and say, hey, this is a new feature. This is what we're doing. A lot of partners, I would say, it depends on 80-20 rule. A lot of partners have no idea what's going on because they're never in. Okay. So the question back, that was asked, I would highly encourage, pick up the phone and talk to these partners. That is really one of the important things we're asking our customers, and we're helping our customers do that. Without talking to your partners one-on-one, you can send online surveys and inside surveys and pop-ups and, all the tools that you can utilize. I would say, please pick up the phone and talk to them. You'll get so much insight from the partners. That is really one thing I want to talk about, getting the feedback. So now coming back to the second question, Nick, and obviously, this is one of the most important things I would say in partner portal business or sales ecosystem business, getting to know the profile of your partner, attributes at the user level, who they are, the partner types, the sales motions, and also, as we talked about, the partner types, the journeys, the lines have been blurred. It is all transactional driven. So, and depending upon the sales motion, the enablement strategy, the marketing enablement strategy, the sales has to be hyper personalized based on who they are and how they're transacting on a particular deal. So if I'm a reseller partner or a referral partner on a one type of deal and an influencer partner on the second deal, the enablement has to change, and the sales motion and the journey in the partner portal should adapt to that. So I would say, before we start talking enablement, get to know the profile types, segmentation, the data. Data drives automation. Data drives everything. That is the key in my mind.
I'm going to build on that, if you don't mind. I think, Nick, you kind of set it up really well, and Harbinder, you built on it in terms of understanding your various partner types and then building very specific experiences, for those partners. And you can do it all. Once you know who your partner types are, you can adjust your two-partner communication so that you can get engagement. You can adjust your training. You can adjust the experience on the portal itself, making it very simple for partners to find what they need and get access to the materials that they need, adjust your training. It's a domino effect that works all the way down the line once you know what motions you need to support for your partners. But I'm going to turn this around on you and both Raegan and ask, what do you do in terms of, we know what has to happen in the portal, but how does a program manager get the cross-functional alignment they need in their organization? Like, how do you, help them get that so that they can align that experience for partners?
Well, from a cross-functional standpoint, I think you have to take ownership of, if you're the portal person or the programmatical lead, you've got to take ownership of that partner experience, and then go get the input from the teams that you need. But taking the actual ownership to make the next steps happen to build that ultimate partner experience. Otherwise, what we typically see is your partner portal becomes what I would call the proverbial partner junk drawer. And so they go to it, they open it up, they try to search through it. They know what they need is there. They just have to figure out, is it the pizza slicer, or is it the spatula? And that's not necessarily the experience that they want. It needs to be very organized, very straightforward, guided, specific to Nick's point, to the role of the user, to the go-to-market strategy. I mean, there's several different ways that your portal can and should be segmented so that it isn't the junk drawer, so that it's very clear to the partners where they need to go to get what they need, based on who they are, and they can clearly see where they are within the program and what the next best actions are to get them through whatever stage gates you have, or milestones that they need to meet to progress. And if those things aren't clear upon their first login, you have work to do. And that's just my opinion.
Which leads to two other questions, which I'll tie together, which is one, somebody was asking, hey, I'm a smaller vendor. How do I get them to pay attention? We have the problem even as a bigger vendor, because it does become, and I'll use Raegan's term, a junk drawer. And so what you really need to focus on, if you're not doing them already, have a look at the way you deliver your training, the way you deliver your programs, and start to think about them as journeys, right? And so if it can be bite-sized, tailored content, then what I would encourage you to do at your partner level, don't go to the rep, right? Because they're going to go, to Dave's point, I got all kinds of logins.
Yeah.
Go to the CRO, go to the sales manager and say, hey, what are your pain points? I can't get my people to understand how to sell X. Create a journey for them. Guess where you're going to host it? You're going to host it in your portal.
Yeah.
Then the question that was also risen, which was point 2, what should I be tracking on my dashboard? Could you imagine if you sat with that partner and you've got this theme across the board and you were able to report back to that CRO or sales manager about the journeys that have been taken within their organization? You've just helped them with their training. You've just helped them offset their cost. You've just created relevance, and you've created materiality. Doesn't matter what vendor size you are. All of us can do that. So I would encourage you to look at, if you've not started and you're designing your next gen, look at your analytics, look at your journeys, look at your enablement, and how you provision the content. And I know, Harbinder, you've talked about this, and I know, Dave, you guys are working on it as well. What are some best practices they think of redesign in creating curated content, and what are you guys doing as vendors?
Yeah, so Nick, I'm gonna say that, but I'm gonna go back one more time to the prior conversation. And I'm thinking this because of the question that Lucy asked there. I'm a minor vendor. What are the things they need for my portal? I know everybody knows this. Intuitively, we all get this. It's all about the money. As we see business progress in the indirect space, you can't sign up partners until you've got a couple million in revenue, because you go to sign up a partner and they say, yeah, I'd love to rep your product. What's your revenue? Well, we're just starting. Okay, why don't you talk to me when you've got 1 to 3 years, $3 to $5 million. So, so it takes money to kind of prime the pump. I also want everyone to understand, this is so important. You may not realize it, but your partners operate on a knife edge of profitability. 1 or 2 deals that they get or lose because of your assistance makes the difference between a profitable and a non-profitable quarter for them. You want to prime that business. You want to prime the pump. Take them no strings attached revenue that they can go close to get money in the bank. And Lucy, it doesn't matter if you're a minor partner. If you're adding to their bottom line and their top line, if you're adding to their bottom line on a fairly easy, straightforward process, you're going to be very important to them. So it all to me comes down to kind of follow the money. And Nick, the question that you asked earlier about how do you make sure that they're able to get what they want? I would love to be able to tell you that Impartner has this great AI-driven process for figuring. We don't. We have good, smart algorithms that help me kind of show you what we call the Netflix experience. Hey, because you read this document, we think you may be also interested in these 3 documents. Yeah, so we do that, but it's all algorithm based. And if we get behind on our algorithm programming, then it doesn't work as well as I wish it did. But there are a lot of things like that we can do. Asset libraries are critical to your partners getting the business that they need. And I don't think there's any amount of time that's too much time to spend on keeping your asset library clean. And the workshop that we had yesterday, somebody from a very large vendor said, yeah, I just don't know about asset libraries. We have 20,000 documents in our library and nobody can find what they're looking for. And I'm thinking, dude, that's not a library. Raegan would call that a junk drawer.
Yeah.
I'm going to add a few things. I'm going to go back to somebody's just starting off with a partner program. Because one of the most important things that really we talk about is internal enablement of your teams, sales enablement. A lot of times when building a partner program, that means they already have a direct sales motion. And unless you as a company decided to go 100% partner from day 0. And so we want you to look at inwards, look at your internal sales methodology process, what is working. Really when it comes down to enablement, how to say, when to say, what to say, that is the key. You take that information, build a playbook, and make that available to the partners. And going back to Dave's point, you have to make the partner successful in selling. Okay? The first deal, the second deal, the third deal. How do you do that? You got to help them with the 101, initially you have your CAMs, PAMs working hands-on with the partner, making them successful with the first deal and the second deal. Then they're going to come back, sell your service. And how do you do that? You got to really think about enablement of your PAMs and look at the playbook that has worked internally. And you got to make that available to your partners to scale your business. That is the key. Internal alignment with the partner sales motion. That is one of the most important things we don't really talk about as part of the portals. Now, coming back to the content, because this ties in with the content we talk about. So when you think about content, you have training content, onboarding content, marketing content, sales enablement content. There's a content across the board. There's a lot of times we come across there's not enough content people have on each of these different categories. And the first thing we say, how do you guys sell today? Do you guys have anything happening? I said, look inwards how you sell today. Look at all the training content and what piece of the content could be repurposed for partner enablement. And that really goes back to, there are companies that I would say, Raegan's company that does content development. Content, a lot of times when we try to launch a partner portal or ecosystem platform, it comes to a screeching halt because people just don't have the good content. Okay. And obviously with the AI and Gen AI, we're trying to figure out how to solve some of that problem a little bit. But the bottom line is there's a lot of content of different types that is actually missing. And that is really what I would say, that's, you should be looking into. And obviously you can look at the content by partner type, sales motion, and create this matrix and start doing a gap analysis and say, yep, we don't have anything in this for this. We don't have anything for this. And now we have to figure out who has the content or discover within the organization. I think that is the journey that everybody has to go through as part of the initial launch of the platform.
Absolutely. Content is key. And that's, if you're getting started, that's typically one of the biggest gaps that we see is people want to have a partner program. You want to do all these things, but you don't have any partner enablement. And the last panel hit on several of these things. They said they needed the content to be tailored to their audience, tailored to how they go to market, how they need to be trained, and how they need to be successful. And it really is key. And if you don't have the right content, be upfront about it. Tell them that it's coming, or be open to holding sessions to bring people up to speed or putting in the work that it's going to take to make them successful. But don't, the other thing you don't want to do is make it look like your partner portal is a Costco and it has, all these shelves and all these things, but it really looks like the mom and pop corner store with like very, very few things on the shelves. So being straightforward and upfront about where you are and what your roadmap is for your program will also help your partners come along, because they want to be successful. And we heard it earlier, they're they're finding success with smaller vendors because they are spending the time. And sometimes that relationship piece can carry you through the gaps that you might have, as long as you're upfront and honest about where you're at with things.
Yeah.
And I would remind you all, it goes without saying that if you've got a long tail, and Dave brought it up, right? You've got partners that are just starting them. Your least cost route to market is using your portal to influence these folks, to bring them along in the journey, to tailor content to them, to leverage them, put them on the journeys and get them started. Don't ignore it, right? Cream will rise to the top. We all know that as profit increases, revenue increases, they'll move to the top. They'll get the attention of your CAMs or PAMs or whatever acronym you use to describe them. And so that's the power and leverage that you have with your portal. So I'm going to toss out one question. I'll let Cosmo go first, but I want to leave time for what are you guys all thinking top of mind when it comes to next gen? But there was a question that I get asked this a lot. What success have you found in pursuing portal gamification to increase portal content consumption? If you have incentives were offered, what types of incentives were best received? I'll let Cosmo go first. Let's try to keep this to about 2 minutes each, because I want to leave time for what should everybody be thinking about in next gen.
I'm going to start off with, I think you need a strategy. I think that you can't just put out, random incentive programs. You really need to look into the partner levels, which goes along with your segmentation, and then have those conversations with revenue goals with your internal teams, and then align the incentives. So it almost doesn't matter. I've seen a lot of different types of incentives thrown at things. It could be extra time with early access to product. It could be co-marketing. It could be spiffs. You've got all kinds of different incentives out there. Recently, we have been working with a couple partners to help our clients add gamification. There are a couple really good, interesting gamification vendors out there that can integrate with your platform, and I find that those are getting to be very successful too, where your partners can go and literally play games and earn points, and you tie those to the activities and the behaviors that you want them to do in your portal. So to wrap up, have a strategy, and then just make sure your incentives are aligned with the behaviors that you're trying to get.
Harbinder, thoughts?
No, I agree with you. I would say 100% agree with Cosmo. A lot of times it is the planning and the strategy. Obviously, there are a lot of gamification tools we offer, everybody else offers, that you can incentivize. But again, thinking through how you're monitoring it and what is the incentive, and obviously what is the behavior elements you want to look at. Okay, it's the number of deal regs and asset consumption of certain type that enables them to sell. So that means that requires thinking and planning. Okay, don't just put a nice widget up there and just go at it, and that nothing happens out of that. So that really goes back to a little bit of thinking and planning, and I would say thinking and planning across the board. And anything you do in the partner program, and be consistent about it. And one of the things that I would say, 27 years of me doing this, there's a lack of consistency within the vendor organization. I'm sorry to say that. What happens, there's a group of people come in, they implement, they'll go along 6 months, 8 months, a year, things change, people move, then the next batch, there's a gap, then nobody does anything for a couple of months till the new person comes on board, and then the strategy shifts, and there's a misalignment. There's a misalignment, what happened in the portal, misalignment in the program and the strategy, now there's a mismatch, okay? So I would say, please, consistent. Be whatever you're trying to do, be consistent across the board, and listen to the partner, and then you adapt and change. So that would be my recommendation, advice.
David, Raegan, anything to add? If not, we can move on to the next topic.
No, listen, at first I have to call out Harbinder on the whole 27-year thing, because I happen to know he's only 29 years old. So if he's saying he started his business when he was 2, I'm not buying that. Hey, I spent the last few weeks over in London on business/pleasure. Had a great time. Every time you jump on the underground over there, what they call the tube, right? You hear the mind the gap. That's going to be my message. Mind the gap. Mind the gap between what you're doing with your partner community and what you're doing with your end user community. So many tools, so many processes on understanding what your customer journey is like on your website, what your customers are looking for, what your customer satisfaction is, what programs are driving your customers. You would never think twice about posting something on social media that had clickbait in it to get your customers back to your website to re-engage with you and read more content. Why is there such a gap between what you're doing with your customers and what you're doing with your partners? You got low partner engagement? Get them a newsletter, get them an email in their inbox that has clickbait articles. Yeah, HP announces 7 new things. Number 5 is going to blow your mind. I'm a partner. I got to read that. I'm going to click on it and I'm back in the portal. And now I'm re-engaged with you. All the things that have been perfected over the last decade plus in the consumer marketing space, you got to do that in the partner space. And this is a shameless plug, but if you don't know what those things are and you need help with them, you've got to engage with somebody like a Spur Reply. You've got to get some kind of partner on board with you that has experience and has done this with not dozens but hundreds of customers and can help you mind that gap.
Yeah, I would add that I don't know that gamification is the answer per se. That you've got to take a step back and figure out what are you trying to accomplish, because gamification in and of itself can drive the absolute wrong behavior and throw your metrics completely out of whack. If you're saying, oh, go click on content. I mean, I might have done this at a recent event. They had a whole gamified little thing in their app for the event. And I was like, I will be on that leaderboard. And I just clicked all the things. And it didn't drive the actual outcome that they were going for. They wanted users to see the content for the sponsors, right? So think about what you're actually trying to get partners to do, and then ask yourself if gamifying it is going to get you the outcomes without skewing things completely. Because I've always used this quote of what gets measured gets done. So if you're going to measure that, make sure that that's the action and it's getting done the things that you want it to. It might not be the right answer.
Mark.
Perfect. So we've got 7 minutes, speed round. You've got unlimited budget. What should I plan for next in my portal strategy? Cosmo, 1 minute.
Unlimited budget. What should I plan for? I'm going to go back to the theme. I mean, re-look at your partner experience, audit your portal, see what features you're not using and whether they can contribute to generating the value that your partners want. I think the main theme here is about personalizing and being relevant. That's going to drive your partner engagement.
Raegan?
Spend time asking your partners what they need and taking action on that outcome. So whether that's updating your tool set or just enhancing what you have today, find out what they actually need and make sure that your partner experience is aligned to the programmatical elements and the things that your partners need. So segment based on the go-to-market strategies of your partners and the user roles. Create a guided set of journeys so that they know what they need to do to be successful and they can track how they're progressing with that. And I would say dashboard up, spend as much money of that on getting the data right and exposing it to your partners so that they can see how well they're doing in your program and that they can see the dials and knobs that they need to turn. And that it's clear and that they can do things within 1 to 2 clicks.
Mr. Taylor?
Well, 2 things. First of all, if you have one thing to do, I would say do what Cosmo and I do and take time off and go fishing. That would be my first. That would be my first level of advice. You take some time off and go fishing. Look, I think for me, really, it comes down to analytics. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have in the indirect go-to-market space is convincing people of the value that we're driving for them. I can't tell you how many times we hear, "Oh, that deal? No, we would have won that anyway. All we did by giving the partner some margin on that was we took margin." You know, you've got to be able to close the loop on what you really are generating, and you've got to do it on the marketing side, right? And you've got to do it on the PRM side. There's so much to focus on to help your executive suite, understand and really internalize the value that your indirect team is generating for the business. And by the way, I'm not just talking revenue, and I'm not just talking margin. I'm talking renewal rates, churn rates, upsell capabilities. All of these things are impacted by a really good, effective go-to-market through indirect channels. But I don't think our executive teams understand that. Analytics, analyze it, familiarize yourself with it, so you can sit down with somebody and say, well, let me show you the data that really backs up the value that we're driving.
In agreement with all of them. So my response includes what everybody said, but let me add a few more points to it. Number one, the key is to reduce the friction between the partner and the vendor. Okay. And there are many, if I have the unlimited budget, so I would say first, find ways that partners can perform most of the functions without coming even to the partner portal. Okay. And if they can perform functions right from their Outlook, from the Gmail, I can register a deal right from my from my Gmail, sending an email. And second, if they're coming to the partner portal, personalize, hyper-personalize it. There's some ways that you can hyper-personalize. You can see what partners are doing online, their behavior on LinkedIn. So they know they're selling to healthcare or manufacturing when they log into the portal. Give them everything that lines up with their activities outside. So take the external data and match it with what's in the hyper-personalized platforms. Use AI technology, because this is where the AI comes into play. And the other things that think about where the future of the ecosystem is going, you need to think about collaboration. So create collaborative space within the partner portal, in addition to the analytics, the way people can collaborate to co-sell, to co-build, to co-market, because that's where the future is. So that is where I use the AI, use collaboration, and minimize the friction across the board.
Thank you for that. Thank you, guys. I think all of us would be remiss in saying, if you've got any follow-up questions, I think all of us are on LinkedIn. Reach out to any of us. I did a session yesterday and was bombarded afterwards. I can tell you with great pride, I answered all of them. If we've missed anything, I know there's a couple of questions that we didn't get to, but you've heard a couple of themes. One, know who your audience is. Two, be able to segment that audience. Three, pay attention to your content. Four, create relevance. Five, use your analytics, both internally and externally. And if you're following those as your guideposts, your PRM and your platforms will continue to improve at an exponential rate. I was being a little flippant. We all don't have unlimited budgets. So understand the last piece we heard was survey your base, understand what their pain points are, and take out the friction. If you can reduce the friction, you're going to lower your cost of sales. You're going to be able to have, as Dave just alluded to, somebody saying, well, I would have closed it already. Guess what? Unassisted sales, untouched revenue, those are all part of your metrics, and encourage you to spend a lot of attention on those 6 points. Thank you all. It was a pleasure to see you all. And thanks for hanging in there. We didn't lose anybody through the entire time. I often look at to see if we get trailing numbers, and we stayed the whole time. Have a great conference, folks. See ya. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
See you.